And he's looking very calm. Duda opens with the English opening, and we've seen this before plenty of times actually this tournament, a real trend, but not this move, bringing the white knight out early, attacking black's pawn in the centre. This is traditionally not supposed to be so good because black can even push a pawn forward and attack this knight. White has to lose a lot of time hopping around the board with his knight, and that happens. Duda provoking Pragg, and we're seeing something very sharp early on, and a trade of knights. Simon, what do you think of this opening?
This is a very unique opening, actually. I've never actually seen the white knight coming out so early for white. So clearly Duda and his second have been preparing this, but Pragg doesn't seem bothered, does he? You know, he just plays very quickly straight into Duda's preparation. It's probably going to come down to that black pawn in the middle of the board. Is that black pawn in the middle board strong or weak? Because you can see black's defending it, white's attacking it, so we'll have to wait and see. But at the moment, you know, Pragg has a space advantage as well, which is useful.
Yeah. I was just going to say this actually seems to be a speciality of, I think he's from Russia, just judging by his name, Rachmaninoff. No, Rachmaninoff.
Rachmaninoff.
Rachmaninoff is not...
He was a very good piano player, wasn't he? Big hands.
Yeah, but is Alexander Rachmaninoff, and I can see that he's had mixed results.
And arriving late, Magnus Carlsen now to face Erik Hansen. The arbiter is up on the podium helping Erik fix something. Hopefully they are good to go now. Magnus Carlsen, he definitely needs to win this match to have any hopes of winning the tournament. And he is a big favourite against Erik Hansen. The game should start very soon.
You didn't get up to mischief, Simon.
Sorry?
You didn't get up to mischief there on their board.
Oh, no. As much as I've been tempted to, you know, just play the odd move on some of the boards before they turn up, so they pre-move one F3, it's probably not the time and place to do that, is it, really? I mean, no.
Not at the business end of a tournament. And
no.
OK, Duda's just brought out the white queen, attacking a pawn in front of it on this B file, but that can be easily defended by moving that pawn. And that's how Pragg reacts. The white queen, it's not exactly clear what she's doing out there. I'm sure she'll retreat at some point. Immediately retreats. So losing a move for white, but just having loosened up black's pawn structure. The black pawn structure now slightly weaker than it previously was. And Pragg continues by developing his queen. Is he hinting that the black king is going to go and castle on this side of the board, on the left side? If it does, then Pragg is really in a fighting mood. And actually, this type of position, it's more usual with colours reversed. I've seen this many, many times, and normally that's what happens. Both kings castle on the queen side, on the left side. Often, they both become targets a bit later on. Remember as well, if Pragg wins this match, if Magnus doesn't win his match in normal time in the Rapids, then Pragg is already the champion with 1 day to spare.
Yeah. So, I kind of feel like today's a critical day for Pragg, because if he wins this match, I think he's going to win the competition. I know he's got to play a niche tomorrow, but he's very capable of that. And I feel like Duda's style is a very tricky style. And you can see he's already gone for quite a tricky line. That this is going to be a real challenge, you know. And Duda is, you know, he's one of the strongest people in this competition. He's World Cup winner. So I think this is a big match. The setup that White's gone for of his last move, he's getting ready to move that dark square bishop. I mean, we can maybe point just where that bishop can go to. And this is something that Duda actually goes through a lot of time, doesn't he? He plays this kind of thing, and then he starts advancing his pawns on the other side of the board often. And I expect that's quite a normal plan here to at least get some space somewhere. But it's, yeah, I've played the English most of my life, but I've never seen this kind of position. So it's certainly quite fresh.
Yeah, we should mention it has a really bad reputation, this type of position for white. For example, in this position, if Pragg just castles queenside, it does look a bit loose, especially on these light squares. That's why Pragg is hesitating right now. But if he gets one more move and kind of tucks his king into the corner, just covers it up, nice and safe, then Pragg should be doing quite well. White can develop the bishop, as Simon mentions, to this long diagonal, but it's a bit blocked for now. And usually Pragg is the one as well who can start maybe by tucking his king in the corner. And once White's king castles, you've got to be careful of this because the black knight might jump in. But usually one plan for black, just gaining space on this side of the board. You have this really strong point in the middle, which for now does look stronger. It doesn't look too much of a weakness. And by pushing this h-pawn up the board, it's actually very hard for white to find a plan. For example, you could see a situation like this where white is completely stuck, can't really push this pawn forward without being captured, can't push this pawn forward without being captured, and it's very much black who can slowly improve. You need to find a good home for this bishop, of course. Maybe the black rook will actually develop itself this way later to look at some pawns. So this is what I'm expecting to happen, but Pragg first, plucking up the courage. I think he should castle this way, even if it does look a bit shaky.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, the plan that you highlighted is actually a plan where the expert, Alexander Rachmanov, actually lost in that type of way. So I'm kind of curious, what does Duda have up his sleeve? You know, why is he playing something which doesn't have a great reputation?
Maybe he was hoping that Pragg wouldn't understand this position, wouldn't be prepped in this position. But I think just the speed that Pragg's playing, it is clear that he's analysed basically everything. Everything. Any opening out there, Pragg's done it. That's what he's done in his couple of years off. He's just analysed all the chessboard openings that are possible and anything else as well. Because if someone played this against me, knight f3, I'd be like, I've played chess, 35 years, and I've never seen this move. And I'd be thinking, but young 16-year-old Pragg, straight away knows what to do, which is quite incredible, actually, because, how can he expect this? How can he expect this opening?
But youngsters these days, though, they play thousands and thousands of games online. So maybe the chances are that he's had this position at least, or this opening, at least once or twice out of those thousands and thousands of games. Yeah. And also, as I mentioned, Simon, so it started as the English opening, but it's basically the Sicilian defence, but with colours reversed. And with colours reversed, it's not popular, of course, but there have been many kind of opening articles on it, some videos released on this opening that white is employed just with the other colour. So maybe Pragg recognises this opening when he has white, and he's just trying to kind of get used to the visual kind of confusion of having the black pieces in this pawn structure that he normally has with white. So
and he's moving pretty quick, isn't he? Still, I mean, it was interesting what you were saying there about the amount of games you play online. And this was something that happened in poker, and why poker play became so much stronger. That before they had internet poker, you'd have to go and play a live poker thing. Maybe you could play, I don't know, let's say 100 hands in 2 hours. But nowadays you can play 10,000 hands in 2 hours, and the amount of information you get and you can learn from is so much quicker. And that's what happened in poker. Everyone was learning at such an accelerated rate because they were just getting much more information. And I think the same thing is obviously happening in chess. There's so much information. You can play so many games online now that's another reason the improvement of youngsters is so rapid.
Yeah, it was interesting that you say that, because I was having a discussion with a grandmaster friend, and he was saying to me, chess is getting harder these days because all those traps that we used to set for our opponents, they've probably fallen for them online. They've played so many games.
That's right, yeah, and it's very hard now to... you used to be able to, when I started playing, get a good opening in most games, and you could use that same idea for years. I played the same idea even when I was an international master, and I just do it for 2 years non-stop. Now you play it once, you won't be able to play it again because someone would have looked at that and found a good response. So it's a different game now, really, in some respects.
The only exception to the rule is Hikaru Nakamura. He's been setting some traps that actually many grandmasters have fallen into, and consistently as well. Meanwhile, there have been some developments, but they've kind of fallen along the same line that David kind of highlighted. White has been prevented from expanding on the right side, and here we get to see Duda's big idea. He's going to remaneuver the knight to a post, I'm presuming, that is going to head towards the centre.
Yeah, that white knight retreating, but it is quite flexible. It can jump forward in 2 different directions later on, and Pragg just deciding how to deal with that. Meanwhile, also the position of the kings we should talk about. They have both positioned themselves on the queen side, and note how after castling long, as we call it, they did take a time out to move again towards the corner of the board. And basically, it's a mirror image. We're used to players, I think 90% of games, they castle on the short side, on what we call the king side, on the other flank. And there, the king is already right next to the corner. It's nearly always a good idea, if you do castle on the opposite flank on the long side, to just take a time out, put your king where these guys have placed their king right now. Just super safe. I would slightly prefer the position of black's king at the moment, although it looks a bit loose, just because there are no white pieces around it. Whereas the white king, if you look at it, there's actually a black bishop on the same diagonal. So if the position does open up, black's light squared bishop pointing down at the white queen and the white king.
Both of them.
Yeah, that's something that Duda will have to be careful of later on. There might be tricks to open up that diagonal later on. So white's king not entirely safe. Maybe we'll see it shuffle even further into the corner later in the game.
I'm very surprised that this opening has been recommended and played by Duda, to be honest, because it doesn't look very nice to me. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
horrible for white.
You got the white pieces. You should be pushing for an advantage, and you go into a cramped position and you start doing these weird knight manoeuvres, and it's really hard to manoeuvre knights when you're cramped. I mean, because you don't have much space to manoeuvre, man. I'm not even sure where that knight's going. I mean, has it got a? I don't know. I don't really know what the plan is.
I don't know what the plan is, and
so I don't understand this opening ploy at all.
But all will be revealed because Duda seems to be playing as though this is all his preparation. This is what he had earlier.
Yeah.
How do they say that? The expression earlier at home or something.
Yeah.
Played super fast. Pragg
What I made earlier.
spending a lot of time on this previous move.
Yeah, spending a lot of time, Pragg, maybe because he's just as shocked as we are here in the studio about what Duda is doing. I really do like Pragg's move in general, pushing that pawn, stopping the white knight, kind of leaping forward to the centre, taking one square away from this white knight. But it is quite committal. He's blocked up the pawn structure completely, so kind of pros and cons there. But yeah, most of all, it's the clock situation. Duda didn't choose this opening because it's good for white. It's definitely not good for white, but he's chosen it because it's surprising. He's trying to use that psychological surprise value on Praggnanandhaa, giving him a pawn structure here which he's unlikely to have ever studied before. And yeah, Duda hoping his greater experience might pay off later. But it's a bit tense for now, no direct tactics, just both sides controlling squares, trying to improve their pieces.
And I guess if there is one thing Pragg has struggled with in the tournament, he has been in some time trouble.
Yeah, he's handled the time trouble really well. Even when he's been low on the clock, he's played quite well in general. Maybe the exception being that day against Magnus Carlsen, where he kind of panicked a couple of times low on the clock. But yeah, that's the one thing he's had throughout his entire career, actually. Even when I played him 3-4 years ago, he was already getting very, very low on the clock very early. So I think it's something that I've heard him talk about in interviews, his coach talk about in interviews. They're trying to work on that. But so far, it's not really come back to bite him. Maybe that's what Duda is hoping for. Maybe that's the only kind of weakness that Duda spotted when analysing Pragg's games.
But is that also the biggest sign of a player in top form when they are able to handle time trouble really well? The intuition is they're working.
Exactly. It's all about intuition, trusting it, and also calculating super fast. And that's one thing the youngsters are really good at. It's like a math equation. If you ask them what 12 times 12 is, they'll work it out instantly. And yeah, the players, it's same with chess variations. They'll say, okay, bang, 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 that's the answer, and they'll make a move. So that's why he can handle being low on the clock, but it's just about whether he can kind of keep the position stable while the clock does tick down.
All right, it is game one here on day 6, and we're following Duda against Pragg. Behind Pragg is Magnus Carlsen against Erik Hansen, game 1. The bar is slightly to the middle in all the games, actually. Magnus looking focused today. We could definitely hear from his interview yesterday that he still was a little bit sick. And David, you are a friend of his. Have you heard from Magnus? Do you know how he is feeling?
I haven't heard too much from him lately, I guess because he has been kind of locking himself away, trying to recover. And I've heard that he's feeling a bit better than he was, especially 3 days ago when 3-4 days ago when he had that loss to Liam, and he was really, really struggling visibly. So he's feeling better, but yesterday, still not 100% against Jordan. So, yeah, I mean, it's a pity we don't see the world champion kind of at his best, trying to chase down Pragg, but still, I mean, he looks pretty focused today, Max.
Yes, let's hope he is better. And we also have to give so much praise to Jordan van Voorhees because he did play some fantastic chess yesterday. That was a very entertaining match. Jordan is today playing Mamadjaro. That should be super entertaining, right?
Yeah, I have to say that, absolutely. I mean, it will be like fire on the board. And I can see from the answers to our competition where we're asking who are you rooting for and why. Well, Shakira and Jordan both have a lot of fans cheering for their creativity and just for their ability to generate magic on the board. It's kind of like a game of passion when they play.
Very nice, yeah. Do tweet us using the hashtag ChessChamps. Who are you rooting for? And of course, why? And I did see the bar in the first game between Giri and Lea. That one was actually quite significantly over to Giri's side.
Yeah, and Giri, he will want to win in the rapid portion. He's lost 3 blitz tiebreaks already this tournament, hasn't won any blitz tiebreaks. So he knows the pressure's on him to win the first few games, and Liam in top form, so it's not going to be easy for Giri, despite the fact he's doing well right now in the first game.
So if you are rooting for Giri, send him some love using the hashtag #ChessChamps. We're following Duda against Pragg, and I did hear a few moves.
Yeah, there were a couple of moves, and we have to jump in because something has changed. It's, wow, especially with this last move, it's getting really sharp. And Simon, talk us through these last few moves, because was this one surprising to you? We mentioned White had not much to do, pushing forward with his pawn, allowing en passant, capturing, and now jumping forward with the White Knight.
I think that seemed pretty logical to try and get the knight to a good square, but I'm more surprised by Pragg's reaction, because we mentioned one of the real strengths of Black's position was this pawn in the centre of the board, which we can highlight there. That kind of cuts White's position in two, and Pragg, with his next move, this is what shocked me, has lost control of that pawn, and he's grabbed Harry the H-pawn, and we know that Harry loves sacrificing himself anyway. He's kind of a bit of a relevant pawn, and I think now Duda can win a central pawn, and central pawns are better than wing pawns, so I don't quite understand, unless there's some tactical reason, why Pragg has gone for this, and I think we're going to see that. Well, Dave's just putting it on the board, and yeah, why has he done that? I mean, Jovanka, do you know any good reasoning behind this?
Well, it could also be like nerves. It could be the fact that, you know, he's just thinking about the situation, because it's often a sign when you're nervous that you play a little bit too in a forcing way. It's just a little bit irresistible, because it makes no sense what Pragg Nanda has just played, because after all, he's just traded off White's worst minor piece, the dark light squared bishop.
And he gave up Black's really important pawn in the centre for just an isolated weak pawn on the side of the board. Black's queen now offside, really needs to take a time out to kind of step back, centralise herself. So Pragg's firstly losing time with his queen on the next turn. But yeah, White now, look at the two White pawns. In any endgame, White's got great chances because these two White pawns have no rivals. Black, meanwhile, with a set of doubled pawns, not ideal. If you imagine the White Knight, remember, a queen and knight are a great attacking combo. If the White Knight can pick itself up and kind of plant itself on one of the weak light squares around the Black king, it's going to be game over. Black, with only the dark squared bishop, has no influence on the light squares. So this one's, I feel, in practical terms, turning in White's favour. But then again, Pragg does have a nice strong bishop. If he can line it up with the queen, maybe, he's doing well. And still not too many weaknesses apart from these light squares in Pragg's position.
Such a horrible positional decision, though, from Pragg. You know, I mean, if someone had played that like 40 years ago, let's say, I mean, maybe nowadays in modern chess you can kind of get away with it, but 40 years ago you say, oh yeah, he's only a 16-year-old, you know, he's only a youngster, he'll learn how to play positional chess when he gets a bit older. But like, I really don't know why he's done that, because it was such a nice pawn in the centre of the board.
I think his answer lies there. He actually thinks that his control over the dark squares is probably going to be worth all those exchanges.
It seems strange, though. He might be doing OK now, but it was like you did have a safe, I would say, position advantage. So why are you giving up all your positional advantages? Because if that diagonal doesn't work now, he's just going to be worse. So it just seems a bit odd. But
yeah, I don't approve either. I think it's not even that this position's bad, because Black has some chances. It's just the fact that his position earlier was very, very strong, and he had kind of long-term advantages there. So he gave up all those long-term advantages just to trade things off and to simplify the position. And now it's the type of position, I was about to say, White's king can even start getting ready for an endgame, centralising itself there. White's king is pretty safe because Black has no knights, no light squared pieces to attack it. And there we go, Pragg having to waste time retreating the queen back where she came from. So yeah, it's still in the balance for now. Young players as well, liking their bishops. So maybe Pragg still enjoys his position. But yeah, it's anything goes now. It's
or
all
are we
in the balance.
starting to see some nerves, do you think?
I think his decision, trading off those pieces, must have been influenced by nerves. Maybe the clock situation as well. He's down 5 minutes on the clock, and he thought, it's human nature as well to think, OK, trading things makes things more simple. But often by trading your good pieces for your opponent's bad pieces, you actually allow the momentum to change as well. And here we go. Duda's improving his knight, maybe long-term heading towards those squares that I mentioned, if he can get there.
Yeah. So Duda with the white pieces, he wants a win in this game. Is he fighting for that win, or does it look very drawish?
Yeah, Duda, I mean, even if the position starts kind of fizzling out, he'll look for tricks, he'll look for traps. Just with his opening choice alone, he showed that he wants to win this game desperately. Duda still doing okay in the tournament, but he really wants to win this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Duda, that is his kind of trademark, fighting spirit, fighting play. And, Pragg, is he setting a trap? I mean, the whole idea maybe is just to push the f-pawn 2 squares forward, and that would be quite nasty if Duda were not paying attention.
Yeah, for example, if white just gets kind of careless and pushes his own pawn, then suddenly this could be a real problem for the white queen. She doesn't really have too many safe squares, and if she retreats, then suddenly the black queen is going to jump in with a nasty check. And this looks scary, right, Jovanka? This is the trap, you mean?
Yeah, this does look very, very scary. You never want to allow an enemy queen in your side of the board, especially one entrenched on that particular square.
Yeah, and even though the king for now survives, I mean, suddenly you cut off this diagonal, you cut off this diagonal, and you could definitely imagine this going very, very wrong for the white king. So a bit of a trap in the position. And what will Duda do? Maybe he has to push a pawn forward just to cover the light squares. Maybe he has to use his knight. I'm not sure which way you should jump, either forward or backward, just to cover that key square that we mentioned the black queen wants to use later on. Yeah, at least Pragg, he's got concrete ideas behind what he's doing. He's not just playing moves for the sake of them. He does have a plan. Black wants to push his pawn forward.
All right. Now, Simon, you were talking about these computers and how good these youngsters are getting. Does that mean that it's inevitable that the new players, Magnus and the players coming after him, will be the best in history? Would Bobby Fischer, for example, have a chance today against these players?
I think someone like Bobby, I mean, it's a question that comes up quite a lot.
Yeah.
How do the old world champions sort of relate to the new players, new world champions? And I think if you let the old world champions use computers, then they could hone in on their natural talent and then, be as strong, if not stronger than the modern players. But it really is adapting, and it really is, the technology is so important nowadays for getting stronger at chess, because if you don't have a computer, you're going to be so, you're going to be have such a problem to play against these guys who know everything. So it's, I mean, I don't know how very interesting question. How would Bobby Fischer compared to Magnus Carlsen? I mean,
say we picked up Bobby Fischer from 1972 and we put him in Erik Hansen's chair to play Magnus in a match today.
I mean, without looking at a computer?
Well, maybe they wouldn't play computer chess. Let's say they would have play an over-the-board match.
But with the same knowledge that Bobby Fischer in 1972
we picked him straight out in 1972.
I think he'd get crushed in the opening.
Think so.
I mean, or in general, I think Bobby Fischer would struggle, because
he
also played very sharp openings. He plays them, he's probably going to get in trouble in all, in all the openings. So, I think it would be difficult.
Incidentally, one of our participants has a real-life story just like that.
Really?
Yeah, and he told me during the chess talks,
Okay,
actually.
let's hear.
You want to hear?
Yeah.
You want a spoiler? Okay. It was Shakhriyar Mamedyarov.
Okay, and
in
what
2002, in the Bled Olympiad, he wasn't using computers. He was just using books. And so he prepared using a book from the 70s. And he played Judith Polgar, and guess what? Judith Polgar has been using computers.
Yeah.
She had been preparing. She knew the latest theory. He got wiped off the board.
That's
he was chanceless, So, Anyway, you'll find out more in my chess talks, which is coming with
Mamedyarov. That's coming out. I think that's going to be published on Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Well, I have to say,
because Magnus faces Shakhriyar tomorrow on the final day in the tournament, so we're going to talk more about that.
If there's one player's life story that you really need to listen to, it's actually Shakhriyar Mamedyarov.
Yeah, what a player, what a person. We do have a move on this online game.
We do have a move, and it's one of the moves that we did mention was probable from white. You had to guard your light square somehow. We showed that variation with the black queen coming down to the square that the pawn now sits on, and by occupying the light squares with pawns, Duda has kind of stopped and prevented any infiltration from the black queen. On one hand, you weaken the dark squares in the white camp, but you do cover all of the light squares. So very sensible from Duda. I'm expecting Pragg to maybe adopt a similar strategy anyway and start throwing pawns towards the white queen. It's not exactly clear where Pragg should be aiming for. He ideally wants to improve his own queen, but maybe the first job is to kick away white's queen from this dream central post.
And I just saw the bar just jumped up for Magnus Carlsen in game 1 against Erik Hansen. Look at that. Is he winning that game? Has something happened?
It does look good. Still a lot of work to be done for Magnus, but the trend is in his favour. And it does look like maybe Erik's just made a mistake. So it's been very difficult for Erik for a while. He actually played Erik the same opening where he lost to Pragg yesterday. Magnus is copying Pragg's strategy, which is really interesting. Magnus, of course, studying all his opponent's games. But yeah, Erik... he's maybe a bit like some of the other players because he doesn't get the chance to study so much because he's streaming so often. He's struggling in the opening, just like Bobby Fischer would if he were living in the present day.
Interesting. All right. Well, we're going to keep an eye on this game as well, but we are following Duda against Pragg and Duda's coach, is it, or friend, Adam, he's arrived Oslo as well, and he's out in the lounge with Sverre.
Thank you, Kai. Yes, I'm standing here next to Adam, and it's interesting because yesterday you guys were supposed to have a great birthday celebration, but Jan Christoph was maybe not the happiest after the game. Were you still able to have a good time?
I think he had a good time yesterday, but you know, when you have a birthday during the tournament, it's a bit tricky to celebrate. So we just, shake hands, discussed what would happen within the next year, then came here. So thank you for this celebration, because that was a big surprise for Janek, but then he had to concentrate on the game and play.
How are you viewing this game playing out right now against Pragg?
I think that Pragg is one of the most talented from the newest generation, because, Janek was the newest generation a few years ago. Now he is 24, Pragg is coming and the other are coming. So I think I'm very happy that there is a pressure on him, as he is pressuring the older generation, like Magnus and all those people. So the game is quite interesting, as usually it's not the standard game. Janek doesn't like to play, the theory. He plays to challenge his opponent. So I wish them great games and a lot of satisfaction for the supporters of both players and all the spectators.
But it must be great satisfaction also for you traveling with Janek and also Janek's fans right now, with being a candidate player, performing so well in general. Is it enjoyable to go on these trips when the results are so good?
Actually, I don't travel that much. Janek is traveling with Grandmaster Kamil Mitten, who is his coach. This time he came with Robert Kempinski, who is also a Grandmaster. Several times he was a world and European champion. But Robert had to return back to Poland, so I am replacing him. So my contribution to the preparation is not that big. At least I'm trying to keep the good mood.
But that is just honest question. Is that just as important to keep the mood up as keeping the preparations up?
For sure. For the player, I think we need to address everything, not only chess, and we do it with Janek. So we also really appreciate all the supporters in Poland and all around the world, because we have plenty of supporters in almost all of the countries. And Janek says that the support is for him extra 100 points of elo. So we really, really appreciate it.
So maybe you can give us a tip. If you're not traveling with him the next time, what do we do to Janek to make him happy if he's having a bad day?
I think he's always happy when he wins. So then you can do whatever you want with him. When he's not winning, then, the mood is a bit different. I am in touch with the team, but usually I'm not trying to interrupt them when they are playing on the tournament. So even if I am at the tournament, I am not providing, any guidance and whatever. Just have a chat with Kamil and with Janek, because, they are professionals in that space. I am professional in another space, and we are trying to focus on the things we do best.
I find that most people connected with chess players, they say one thing: they're the happiest when they win, and everything else is secondary. But right now, it's looking even in the evaluations, at least, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sverre and Adam. I think manager is maybe the right term to use about Adam. He's traveling with Jan Christoph and helping him out with many things. And we did have a few moves on the board. The queens dancing around.
Yeah, the queens have been embarking on a little dance there. And one interesting moment, which has passed actually, but Duda offered a trade of queens and Pragg said no. With Pragg's last move, the black queen dodged a trade. Do you like that, Simon, keeping the queens on the board? Duda just there, improving in the white rook.
I was going to say earlier, I think if black exchanges queens, black's going to be in a lot of trouble. Well, not a lot of trouble, but that certainly helps white's chances. I mean, black's won big aim here is to use his queen and try to get the queen, infiltrate it into white's position. You can see where the white king is. Maybe David can just highlight some squares around there where the queen could maybe try to get into. So you see the black, those two squares. The black queen can somehow get into those positions. Black is doing okay. So that's obviously a queen exchange helps white. Hence why Pragg is not doing that, just moving the rook up here.
No, there's a sneaky... Sorry, Dave, Simon.
carry on.
I got a bit excited there because I was like, why put the rook in the middle of the board? Why not move it to the open line? That's what I always advocate. And then suddenly I realised, hang on a second, he's got a sneaky idea. He actually, by stepping forward with the rook 2 squares, he wants to tuck the queen behind the rook, threaten the pawn, and then move on to attack the queen, perhaps.
Yeah, so for example, if white just makes a move, for example, stepping back with the queen, maybe one idea would be to step the queen back. This is your idea, Ivanka.
Yeah,
here. And
that was one idea.
Black goes passive and if white goes passive, and defends this pawn, then you have ideas of maybe swinging across along this line, among others.
Or even just like trying to explode things open on the left.
Yeah, or maybe pushing some pawns on the left side of the board. You could make an argument for pushing either of these pawns, trying to break through to the white king. And the white king may be the big target right now. Black's king relatively safe, no pieces around it. And after this sneaky, clever rook move, with the idea of maybe swinging across later to attack white's queen has preempted that by moving herself. And now, if the black queen steps back, maybe Jan Krzysztof's idea is to bring his knight forward. So defending this pawn, but also trying to sneak forward to some very nice light squares. It's all about black's dark square control on this diagonal versus white's fight back in the center and on the light squares.
And the bar is sneaking over to Pragg's side. Is it starting to get interesting?
It's heating up nicely. Still early days. Pragg there just attacking the white queen. Still a lot of action ahead, I feel. And it could go either way. We see the evaluation bar there back towards the center. It's a very difficult position to handle, especially with not that much time on the clock.
Probably more difficult for white here as well. I mean, black's play is a bit more natural, and if white does the wrong move, you're going to allow that black queen to get into the position. So it's more tricky for white, but I'd say positionally in the long run, better for white. But, you know, can white exchange queens?
That's the thing. If it goes really wrong for white, you just get checkmated. If it goes really wrong for black, you get up, you kind of find yourself in a worse endgame. So still not the end of the world, maybe.
Ooh, hang on a second. Do you think this potentially could be an offer of a draw from Duda, you know?
Every time the position repeats itself, Ivanka, you think it will be a draw?
I'm just putting it out there, you know, maybe, you know, he's saying, hey, let's repeat moves and see whether you're happy with a draw. Because
you seem so happy about the thought of a repetition, but I'm thinking, please don't draw.
No. Obviously, that's not my favourite thing in the world. But you know, I just do like getting getting into their minds and trying to predict whether it's a draw offer. Because I mean, sometimes these are the thoughts that plague you during a game. Is your opponent offering a draw? Are they happy with that kind of thing? What's going to happen if they offer you a draw? Maybe it doesn't happen to David because he plays often a lot of players who are weaker than him.
Ever.
And he also has a very combative style and attitude. But for me, sometimes I'm thinking, oh.
I know, it actually plays your emotions a bit, doesn't it? Because, like, you know, I don't know, you could just want a draw. If you're playing a long tournament, you want to have a day off. Not David, but okay. Everyone else is normal, not this 100-move grinder.
If the opponent wants to draw, they have to sweat for it.
Exactly. He's got to make them really go over 100 moves. But sometimes the draw, you're playing someone stronger. And, like, sometimes they, like, repeat the position. Like's happening here.
Ooh,
I expect this could be a
Second time we've seen this position now.
It is. Yeah, this could well be a draw. But it's like, and then they decide at the last moment, I don't want to draw. And you're like, I've got another couple of hours here then.
So who do you think would want to draw more here, Duda or Pragg? Who is going to repeat or who is going to avoid repeating the position?
I don't think Duda will be repeating the position. I mean, morally speaking, he has the white pieces.
Got more time on the clock.
Got more time on the clock. And so therefore, I think he will be happier with playing on.
Yeah, I think Pragg likes his position, just judging from his body language, looking very focused, trying to get into the computer screen. But yeah, it's just the clock time, I think, that's worrying him. And you're right, Ivanka. Wow. Duda doesn't go for the draw. He brings his rook back where it came from. But the rook was here just a few turns ago. No real progress. Surprising move. I'm glad he played on for the win. But surprising move there.
Did it worsen his position a little bit?
I mean, it's just because the rook, what was it, 3 moves ago, stood on this same square. He brought it to the side and then just brought it back, so he's lost a bit of time there. And because white lost time, black pushes forward.
Yeah, I was going to say, this looks like a good move, doesn't it? Because we mentioned the black queen not wanting to exchange itself, and we can maybe just show on the analysis board that, let's say white moves the rook up a square or something. Now the black queen can go 1 square over, and it can't be exchanged because it's blocked by the pawn that Pragg has just moved, and the black queen is trying to dive in. I love it when you get 2 pieces on the same diagonal. It's like double power. It's really good. They're really powerful. One supports the other. They want to dive into the position, and this is starting to become some actual,
big threats.
Big threats, yeah, definitely. You don't want to allow that queen into your position. That could be terrifying.
Yeah, so really nice, sneaky idea. Pushing pawns forward, it looks like he's trying to control squares, gain space, but as Simon mentioned, setting up a nice attacking idea for Pragg, trying to sneak in using this diagonal. And therefore, Duda, either on the next move or right now even, he's got to push his pawn forward. This bishop's diagonal is too strong, as we showed there, especially once the black queen occupies it. So either now or on the next few turns, he has to push forward and maybe allow some trades. But that, at the best, is going to lead to a draw for white. Swapping things off gives away any chances, I think, of white trying to win the game. OK, he does play it, maybe out of necessity. And now, if we do see a capture, we don't. I was about to say, if we see a capture, white's knight springs to the centre of the board. Instead, we see Pragg keep the tension, swinging his queen across. Now, on this diagonal, white can never touch this pawn. If you play pawn takes pawn, immediately checkmate on the board. Oh. So this is the danger facing Duda. If he's careless, he might end up being checkmated any time now.
And they're both under 2 minutes now, all of a sudden. I didn't realise how low on time they had got. So it's one of those ones where it will spring to life very shortly, and that's where you need a bit of time. I think it's going to be a very, very exciting finish here.
And excitement for Magnus Carlsen. He has now won Game 1 against Erik Hansen. Great start for Magnus. He needs it. He needs to win today's match. He is trying to catch up with Pragg. He's in the lead in the tournament. Do you think he can win this game? Anything's still possible then?
Anything's still possible, but I like what he's doing, Pragg, and he's definitely playing for the win. He kind of teased Duda with that repetition. Duda said no, but Duda's had to worsen his position just to avoid that draw. And I think Duda's just stuck waiting. That white rook move, what's it really doing? It's not clear. I think Duda's just waiting for the tension to be broken. It's going to be hard to win this game for Pragg to actually push forward and make progress and break through to that white king, but he's trying. And unless the clock stops him at 1 minute, he will keep trying to attack.
And he pushes forward his pawns. Will the pawn go 1 square forward? I'm thinking of Freddie marching it 1 square just to destabilise the pawn structure that white has, or will Pragg just simply wait? Somehow I suspect waiting is probably a good idea.
I think probably waiting, yeah. I mean, the only danger I can see he's played it, OK, right. So that does surprise me. Maybe it's OK, but I wouldn't really want to get a black pawn fixed in the middle. So, for example, again, maybe we can show if white takes that pawn now, and I don't know how this is exactly going to turn out, but let's just say black now takes the pawn in the middle. He's got to take it with his pawn. And you can see that black pawn, it could be very strong. This could well occur, but it blocks up the queen, so the queen can no longer have these ideas of attacking the white king. So in some ways, I'd say we're having this on the board, the white king is now a bit safer than it was, because you've got rid of that diagonal by blocking it with one of your own pawns. So I'm a little bit surprised he rushed that one. Maybe he could have been a little bit slower, and this is something you could say is, well, I don't know if it is a fault, but, you're 16 years old, maybe it's very common to try and rush ideas. And one thing at this age you need to do is slow down and just wait until you make a push like this. It's a common error at 16.
On the plus side, though, yes, this pawn is kind of a double agent here. You actually want to remove it from the board as black, but you are tying down white's rook for eternity. If white's rook ever moves, you immediately push forward and break open your own diagonal again, and black will pretty much win if that diagonal becomes open. So, yeah, I agree with you, Simon. Positionally, strategically, it looks wrong. It just feels wrong somehow to put this pawn on a dark square, block up your own pieces, block up this diagonal that looked so good. But at least you've tied down white's rook. And Duda can't ever touch his rook right now, so he has to move his knight instead. There is a threat of the knight coming to the centre and hitting the queen, hitting the rook. So a big, big threat that Pragg has to deal with. You don't really want to trade queens here either. If you trade queens off, even if you grab a pawn temporarily, then after the white knight jumps forward, this is a fork, a double attack, and suddenly, yes, black can defend the bishop, but I think we would just see a draw at maximum for black after the pieces start to disappear.
20 seconds.
I was going to say that, though.
I just realised he's got down. He's moving very slowly with his time, isn't he?
Okay, good move though. He removes his rook away, so now the knight jumping into the centre is not so dangerous. Black can just move his queen, but where to go? That's the problem. At least now white's pieces all on light squares. They're starting to combine, coordinate in the centre of the board. 30 seconds for Pragg, 1 minute for Duda.
Yeah, not a lot of time. Also, you know, that's not the only knight move that attacks the queen as well. So definitely a lot of choice for Duda, but he's also now under a minute.
Yep.
And you know what happens when the clock gets under a minute? Well, you start to sweat a little bit and just start to feel the heat.
Yeah, and Pragg getting energy. We saw just a moment ago by shaking his leg really fast. I've noticed when I was young, I used to do that as well, just rock up and back and forth, get the energy, get the blood pumping. But
so annoying when people do that.
yeah.
So
the older I get, the more I think,
You did
it's
it
a
too,
horrible
Simon.
I would never dream of doing such a thing. I mean, you do it unintentionally, but it's really annoying when your opponent's shaking the table with their leg and you're like, stay still.
Meanwhile, we did see a quick trade there. The knight and bishop have left the board. And Duda making a face. He's not so happy with this last move. The white queen is pinning a pawn. Look at the g-file. The black pawn there on the right side cannot move. The black queen would fall. I'm expecting now Pragg to start trying to activate the black queen. If he can pick up the black queen, put it somewhere near the white king, chances for an attack still. 20 seconds, though. He needs to move.
Not easy because, white's queen is also incredibly active and will start attacking pieces of her own. So, OK, Pragg, this is maybe a good safety choice.
I thought this is probably one way that the game could go towards a draw. Now, if the queens come off, I think it's very likely everything gets swapped off. We could show and just...
But wait, 1 second. We'll have a kind of...
Yeah,
I was about
playing
to say,
for the win.
Pragg under 10 seconds there, and he moved. He's playing for the win, not trading queens, not heading towards that potential draw. Actually, that endgame would have still been tricky, but now that queen lining herself up with the white king. Interesting decision by Pragg.
We have a draw between Jordan van Vries and Shahryar Mamediyarov. We saw both of them leaving the Oslo Esports arena. 2 games still going on here. This one, and the bar is swinging over to Duda's side.
Yeah, Duda is 1 pawn up after all. Yes, it's ugly doubled pawns for white on the f-file, but a pawn is a pawn. And now Pragg going back with his rook where it came from, losing time. White's pawns might start advancing now.
Yeah, no, I didn't really approve of this last move. I mean, I think it's a very instinctive time travel move, but it does waste time. I think he needed to get on the counter-offensive with his pieces. And, Pragg is now doing this. He's now activating the queen. This is good. You need to keep your pieces. You need to keep them alive.
Yeah, and black's queen is attacking one of white's pawns. The white pawn on the f2 square, the black queen is attacking right now. If that pawn drops, white is in big trouble. So Duda has to take a time out and defend that pawn. Maybe using the white queen. The white rook, if it moves, you have to worry about the pawn that it's currently blockading, moving down and giving a check. The computer likes white. Oh, how is Duda going to defend? OK, he brings his rook across. Really brave move there. And how does Pragg keep the momentum going? He just needs to escape this game with a draw. I think, yes, he played for the win earlier. He still wants to win, but the winning chances have gone for black. You need to be super careful now. And OK, this last move, lining the queen up with the white king, but that's been shut down. White defending everything.
I mean, maybe you can roll the dice and push the black pawn in the centre. If I was black here, shorter time, I'd just start rolling the dice and check the king, try to get my queen around the back, because white has a very simple plan now. White can move the pawn. He's done it. So
2 seconds for Pragg.
2 seconds.
Yeah.
But I think he had to try this idea. Now he's got to... If he can get the black queen into the position, then he's going to be doing very well here. But how do you get the black queen into the position?
OK.
Oh, he's done it. Lovely manoeuvre, that one. I love those.
It is lovely.
Well, it looks lovely, but the pawn comes forwards.
Yeah.
Actually, and it does. 2 squares from queening. How does he get the black queen in?
Pragg shaking his head. I think he missed this one. He's panicking under 5 seconds again for Pragg.
Time is so important at the
He
moment.
needs to move.
He has to move.
The queen.
Make a move. OK, he moves his queen. OK, he has a deadly threat on the board. The queen is going to swoop down to the second row.
Can White just take that, Jovanka, now? Maybe he can. He has done.
OK, but the queen and rooks, they're deadly attackers. So, I mean, it's looking really, really, really bad for Pragnanda. But never say never until they shake hands. Well, they don't shake hands these days, but until the game is over.
I'm going to say never, Jovanka. Unfortunately, I think this game is gone for Pragg.
Yeah, it's 2 pawns, and the white king can never be attacked just by the queen really now. So you need a bit of a miracle, don't you? I'm afraid.
But we've seen miracles happen. Like, I'm going to be the eternal optimist here. I woke up in a good mood.
Do you believe in Santa?
Yes.
Good,
Yes, I
good.
do.
Yes,
Saint Nicholas. Here you go.
I'm more of a Scrooge type. I'm a humbug. No, I mean, I think he does need a miracle here, unfortunately. I mean, it's brave play from both players. I mean, I think Duda's decision, fortune favours the brave, was when he turned down the draw, was really, really, big decision, and it seems to be paying off now.
Yeah, and it's just doing a quick count is all we need to do. White has these 2 extra pawns on the F file. White has the attacking pieces as well. Compare the rooks. White's rook super active, black's rook permanently passive. The black queen is just fighting a battle on her own, but this is the type of position where Duda excels as well. He's so good at these queen type of endgames where you kind of have to balance up attacking and defending. The black king is a target, white's king a target too, but white's king can even start running up the board at some point.
17 seconds for Duda. Clock is ticking down.
Yeah.
He has to make a move. He has to keep control of this position.
Okay. White can give a check with the queen, maybe.
6 seconds, 5 seconds.
Oh, the clock.
Ooh.
Yeah, the clock might play a big factor, though. Maybe we've written off Pragg too soon. This is a check. He's regained one of his pawns. The white king now has got to march up the board, surely. OK, he retreats.
Maybe it can come to the king side. This is like, if the white king actually gets on the other side of that pawn, which is moving towards, it's going to have quite good defence because your very advanced pawn also stops things, as David can quickly point out there. And the pawn, white's pawn right up the top of the board, does a useful role of guarding the G8 square, the one diagonally to the right there, so you can't get checked. So this actually seems like quite a safe place for the white king. And whilst you're doing this, the winning idea would be able to get the white rook to one of those squares David highlighted. Maybe he can try that now. Has he gone for it? No. OK. Oh, he's going for a checkmating idea.
Oh.
Wow, Duda, yeah, really nice move there, centralising the white queen. And if the black rook had taken this pawn, as Simon says, this would actually end in checkmate. The black king caught on its back rank. So big threat in the current position if we catch up. Black's going to try and give some checks, but white actually wants to bring his queen to the top of the board with a check, kicking away this black rook. If, for example, a pawn move, check, you give up one queen, but you replace it with another. You win a rook in the process. So big threat in the position, and Pragg trying to defend with his queen. This is a really defensive setup now. Let's go back to the players. Can Duda break this down? Pragg just curling up into a ball. Look at the king and rook now, tucking his king away to safety. It's not going to be easy, though. It's very one-sided.
It is very one-sided. But on the other hand, Pragg's one hope is that the white king is pretty exposed, and that means that Duda can't play the active moves that he really wants to do right now.
Yeah, but he has a winning plan, I feel, and Pragg shaking his head. He knows the white king is going to do what you said, Simon, run away to safety. There we go. It starts its journey to hide behind one of its own pawns. And the simple plan for white, he's going to lift his rook up 1 square, conquer the 8th rank. That white pawn's going to promote to a new queen.
Yeah.
Hard to imagine otherwise.
I think at some point that's going to happen, but I mean, Pragg is doing a great job, and he's got to get his queen. He has got it behind that pawn now. So if the white rook goes up, he can take it. The moves are coming quick and fast. Queen exchange, that's a lovely idea. Really lovely square for the queen. If the queens come off, white is winning. And now there's a threat of queen takes black rook as well, which would be devastating. So you just got to check and hope. But king f3 now?
Yeah,
the white king can march up the board.
Run towards the pawn.
He has played it. And if he escapes the checks, which he should be able to do, it's going to be game over. Because the big threat in the position is the white queen taking the black rook. Because the only thing stopping white's far advanced pawn is that rook.
Let's quickly show this. If black had taken a timeout, then the winning move, the winning idea is queen takes rook, as Simon says, just removing the defender and making a new queen here. Queen and rook would beat a lone queen. So the big question is, in this position, how do you escape the checks? How do you gain time to go and take this rook? Duda, he's trying to zigzag with his king. He's kind of done a dance with his king now. And Pragg, he'll still keep checking. He's going to give a check with his queen in the middle of the board. Surely, there's nothing else to do. You don't even need to think. Give this check. OK, Pragg to 30 seconds. He needs to hope that the checks don't run out. Duda, if he can run to safety, for example, maybe moving his king up the board and maybe blocking with his queen at some point, maybe he's going to win this game. But still, Pragg fighting really hard.
And he has gone for the check. He's got to go for the check. There's no other choice. Okay, the king's come back.
Yeah.
So how is he going to win? Can he block with a queen now? Does that help? Because you keep on the rook. Because this way you're still threatening to take the black rook in the position.
Very clever way.
So this is good. And now you can just move the pawn, I guess.
Move the white king back one square.
Yeah,
even
and
better.
Super safe.
Yeah.
And a beautiful idea, right? The queen is simply going to take the rook. And once the king captures the queen, it's going to be a rook check, and the queening square is supported.
It's game over. There's no
It
more
is.
defensive resources now for Pragg.
Tough start for Pragg, this one.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a very interesting game. But he maybe got a little bit impatient, I feel, there. Just at one point when he started pushing his pawns, and his time management has been...
Pragg under 5 seconds, he's got to move. OK, and now queen takes rook, or this rook move. Both are winning. Black's rook can no longer guard the 8th rank. White is about to make a new queen. White's about to win a rook.
And Duda knows it. He knows that this is the point where Pragg is just going to lose.
Yep, and OK, one last check from Pragg. But the offer of a queen trade will end the game. If queens come off, white is simply winning, and heartbreak for Pragg.
Yeah, look at that. He is about to lose game 1 here, Praggnanandhaa, and there it is. He resigns. It's over. Jan Christoph Duda wins game 1. All right, remember, Praggnanandhaa in the lead in the tournament. Magnus Carlsen, he won his first game. And if Magnus wins today's match and Pragg loses...